Hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm here with my friend Stitch. We're just having a good time because we're about to talk about all the books that I've read so far in 2021. Now, 2021 has been my best year ever when it comes to reading, specifically. I checked my stats recently, it was a few weeks ago, and I realised that my most rated, I don't know how to explain this, like most of the books I've read have been 5 stars, which is just incredible because I feel like I go through waves of just finding books that are meh. But this year I found so many amazing books, and I really feel like I found myself as a reader. It sounds a bit cringy, but it's an enlightening moment. I have found myself as a reader. I've really discovered what I love with my books, the tropes, the genres. I used to be a bit of a Jane Weaver. I was Jane the Virgin without the virgin part. You're cutting out that clip, Charlie. If you leave that in. If you leave that in. As I was saying, I just read contemporary and adult romance. But now I'm really loving thrillers, murder mysteries, and fantasy. Fantasy is my most read genre of the year. But yeah, I'm not going to do any stats. I'm leaving that till the end of the year because my spreadsheet doesn't do like a monthly stats, and honestly I just can't be bothered to get them up. So let's just go through the books that I've read and adored this year. This is going to be such a fun video because I love talking about books. I mean, I'm literally on booktube. Anyway, the first book I want to talk about is Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nyan. I absolutely adore this. I'll be honest, it took me a little while to get into it. I picked it up and at first I was like, I'm not too sure about this. But then I picked it up like a few months later as listen, listen. I will pick a book up and I will read it and I won't be able to get into it. For whatever reason, maybe I'm distracted. I could be watching a TV show that I'm really loving at the time and then I will put all my energy into that, or I'll be putting all my energy into something else, or it's just for the mere fact that the mood came and went and I ended up reading something else. But my track record with this little system, I like to call it a little system, like organised crime, I end up absolutely falling in love with the book the second time that I pick it up. So that is exactly what happened with Girls of Paper and Fire. First of all, can we just talk about the cover? I find this book cover so gorgeous. I like to look at it. Sometimes I just sit there and I look at it. Does anyone have a book cover that you just stare at? You don't pick it up, but you just stare at it. Obviously I finished this and it was 5 stars. If you haven't, what does it mean when you hear like a high sound in your ear? Okay. So this is a book about a society where everything is segregated into different types of people. We have the paper caste, which are I think they're the lowest level of individual in this society. And every year the king of the kingdom invites 9 paper girls? 8 paper girls to serve him. And by serve him, that does mean sexually, and obviously there is strong themes of sexual assault. If that is something that really triggers you, which for me it does trigger me, but I feel like this is really beautifully written, if we can say that about that. Yeah, there is also a sapphic romance. sapphic romance. I would say if you liked Cinderella is Dead, you will like this. They are in the same kind of vein for me. The next book I want to talk about, but really I want to talk about the series as a whole, even though I haven't really finished it yet. It is Torch Against the Night by Sabaa Tahir, but really I want to talk about The Ember and the Ashes as a whole. I feel like this was my favourite one out of the ones I've read so far. I've only read An Ember and the Ashes and A Torch Against the Night. I do need to go and finish this series. I have them on my shelf, I just haven't made any moves to finish them. But this is all over the place. I feel chaotic. I'm going through something right now where I'm just feeling so like out of it. I don't know. Ignore it. But the Ember and the Ashes series so far has been amazing. I don't really know how to explain this series from the top of my head. And I don't have the first book with me. But I know I love it. I love Elias with my whole heart, and Helen and Lay, and just... I fell in love with the characters so quickly. This is another one of those books where a society is segregated again. I just don't know how to explain it, but it was 5 stars step. So my Twitter @ is A Clockwork Femme, which is inspired by Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare. I absolutely love this. I think I gave it 4.5 because it's Tessa. I want to talk about Tessa. I have been attacked on Twitter before for saying that I don't like her, which I don't, not to talk about Twitter discourse, but I just don't understand why people, like, I wouldn't call it hate because it wasn't malicious, but I don't understand why people get so heated when you don't like their favourite character. Like, you could tell me that you don't like Legend, and Legend is one of my favourite characters, and I would be fine with that. Like, I get it. We all have different tastes, we all have different people that we love. I don't get it, and Tessa is just not for me. I'm not going to sit here and slate her, but she's just not for me at all. But I read these books because of Will and Jem. Will and Jem, just the brotherly dynamics and their personalities, they are so different. And they just mesh together so well. I don't really care about Tessa being in the middle of all of this. I just love Will and Jem. And that is why I love this book. Obviously this is Shadowhunters. I'm not going to explain what it's about because everybody knows. But I gave it, I think, 4.5. I will edit in my official rating. But I absolutely loved this. I am struggling a little bit. The second book, even though it was more of like Jem's story, I didn't like it as much as the first one. And I can only put it down to Tessa. Oops. Next one. So I want to talk about this series as a whole, but I'm going to hold up my favourite one. The Diviners. And this is The Lair of Dreams by Libba Bray. What I love most about this book is the idea of dream walking and how psychology and dreams play such a big part of the narrative. We are following a group of, I know you said talented, I suppose talented, but gifted individuals in 1920s New York, and there's a lot of like paranormal stuff going down, and they have to figure it all out. And this one is mostly centered around Henry, who's one of my favorite characters, and a new character called Ling. And she is a sapphic, and Henry is gay. And I just love it when a gay boy and a sapphic woman befriend each other. I love it. That is all I can really say. I don't really know what else to say. If you watch if you watch my April wrap up, you'd know that I didn't enjoy the ending to this series by any means. I think I gave it like a 2.5 star, and maybe I am one of those people where my enjoyment will be tainted by reviews, and there were so many negative reviews on The King of Crows. I feel like it may have influenced my enjoyment, but the middle of it was really, like, there was a whole chunk of it that was so boring and I didn't care. I just didn't care. I didn't care for that whole storyline, but it did wrap up kind of to my taste at the end. If you haven't read this series, go do it. I feel like everyone would find something to love about the Diviners, and I'm so excited to read it again, but I don't want to do it this year. I don't want to do it this year because I feel like there are so many books that I need to get through, and I've done a bunch of rereads this year already. So yeah. Next up I have Before the Coffee Gets Cold. This is translated Japanese fiction, and I think it is based off a play, and it does somewhat read that way. If you are going into this expecting it to be, you know, written in like a novel, and he said novelistic, that's not even a word, but it is quite simple. The way it's written is quite simple because I think it is based off a play. We are following a set of characters that go into this cafe that offers time travel. You sit in a chair and you'll go back in time to a moment that you want to relive, whether it be for like emotional reasons or you want to, I don't know, get some kind of closure, and you have to return back before the coffee gets cold, or else something happens. But I won't tell you what that something is because I feel like that is a spoiler. I just find the cover really beautiful. This was easy. This was so easy and digestible. I read it in one sitting. I've been saying one setting, but the time is definitely one sitting. I read this in one sitting. It's just so quick and easy, and I feel like if you're in a reading slump, this would be a perfect book to gravitate towards because of the conversations and the vibes of being in a cafe, and just the time travel, the science fiction elements. And also it's super interesting because this is translated fiction, and if you're from the UK like me, you're branching out and kind of going into a whole new world and culture. I feel like it's really good. I don't know what else to say. I think I gave it 4 stars. So I wanna touch on my ratings. So I know that this is my best books, and you're probably thinking that I would just be talking about 5-star books alone, but the way that I rate my books is the way that I feel, the things that I feel. If I feel it's a 5-star book, it's a 5-star book. But it kind of just, it doesn't really have anything to do with the writing style, though there are certain writing styles that I can't gel with. But basically I rate my books off feeling. I'm a very emotional person. So I just wanted to get that out of the way because I know I'm throwing around different ratings. Anyway, the next book I have is The Poppy Ball by R.F. Kuang. This one is a tearjerker. I didn't actually cry, but I did physically throw up. You know which part I'm talking about if you've read this book before. This book did make me physically sick. It made me feel so triggered in the worst way possible. There is multiple trigger warnings for this book. It's just, I feel like it's up there with A Little Life. It's one of those books that you have to go in with a thick skin and you kind of got to prepare yourself, because it truly is dreadful. I'm just gonna read the back of it because I can't really think of any fancy way to describe it. When Rin aced the Kaju, the test to find the most talented students in the Nakara Empire, it was a shock to everyone that she got into synagogue, the most elite military school in Nakan, was even more surprising. But surprises aren't always good, because being a dark-skinned peasant girl from the south is not an easy thing at synagogue. Fighting the prejudice of rival classmates, Rin discovers that she possesses a lethal, unearthly power and aptitude for the nearly mythical art of shamanism. Exploring her gift with the help of a seemingly insane teacher, Rin learns that God's long-thought dead are very much alive, and that mastering these powers could mean more than just surviving school. For while in the Empire is at peace, the Federation of Magwan still lurks across a narrow sea. The Federation occupied Nakan for decades after the First Poppy War, and only barely lost the continent in the second. And whilst most people calmly go about their lives, a few are aware that a third Poppy War is just a spark away. It's absolutely amazing. It is written so beautifully. I love the way this woman writes. I need to cough again, my throat is so scratchy. I recommend this to everyone. I know it's one of those gut-wrenching books, but everyone should read this. And I feel like maybe high schools should talk about the real story behind the Poppy War and have their students read this book. I would have loved that if I was in school and this book came out and we could like learn about the real history and read this book. It just the stuff that I had to read in school was horse shit. Okay, I feel like this has potential to be maybe my best book of the entire year because I haven't stopped thinking about it since I read it. It's one of those books that had a lasting effect on me emotionally and intellectually, and that is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. First of all, the cover is just absolutely breathtaking. I mean, I find this cover really cool. I suppose you could say it's boring, but I think it's really cool. Anyway, so this book is about a library that exists between life and death. And we're following a character who is going through a depressive episode and she decides that it's time for her to end her life. So obviously trigger warning for suicide. Trigger warning for suicide. When she does do it, she ends up in the Midnight Library, which is a library that houses basically the archive of someone's soul. That all their infinite potential lives exist in that room. And this woman, our character's name is... what is her name? Her name is Nora. Nora is on a quest to find her perfect life. She goes into multiple of these lives and she's learning kind of like life lessons along the way that I feel like most of these life lessons did stay with me. And whenever she feels like disappointed or unsatisfied with the life that she's gone into, she is zapped right back out of there and into the Midnight Library, where her school librarian is. So she's kind of got a spiritual guide with her, helping her navigate this experience, because obviously she is in an emotional state, and that manifested for her as her school librarian. Yeah, it's such a beautiful book, and I've said this many times. I've shared this kind of like little story, but I read this when I was going through something similar, a state that was similar to Nora's, and I feel like this book helped me not do it. It helped me kind of see the beauty in things in my life that I wasn't really kind of appreciating at the time. And the way this book talks about mental health is quite, I think it's healthy and respectful and beautiful. And if you haven't read this book, I feel like everybody needs to read it. Shuffling along through to a less emotional book, and that is The Fallen in Love Montage by Kira Smith. Now, I picked this up because of Teresa, obviously. Queen Teresa from Sappho's Library. She raves about this book, and how could I just not go to her for sapphic recommendations? Sappho's Library, the Sapphic Library. If you are not following Teresa, please go do it. She is so sweet. She's one of the sweetest people on this platform, and she has the best recommendations for sapphic books. And this is one of them. We are following a girl called Sasha. She has a simple plan for the long hot summer before uni. She's gonna party, watch horror movies, and forget all her troubles by kissing girls. Sounds perfect. Between getting over her ex and dealing with the pain of her mum's illness, Sasha feels she deserves a break. Enter the scene, Ruby, rom-com fan and optimist. Ruby is the prettiest girl Sasha's ever seen, but Sasha doesn't want to get into another relationship, so Ruby challenges her to try a summer romance with the serious parts left out, just like in the movies. But what happens when the Fallen in Love montage ends? Girls with a list, and they're not allowed to fall in love, and they're doing all of the shizzle shenanigans that happen in the movies and kind of creating their own like sapphic movie, I suppose. What I'm trying to get at is, it is talked about in this book how straight people do have more options when it comes to rom-coms, so I feel like this book may have been inspired by a frustration towards that. I did give this 5 stars. It's absolutely beautiful, all the summer vibes, I adored it. And there is also a very emotional part when it comes to Sasha's mum's illness. It is quite deep, and I adore it. We're gonna move on to something more light-hearted, and that is Can You Keep a Secret by Sophie Kinsella. This is such a rom-com, and I think there is a movie based on it. It is about a woman who is on an aeroplane and they hit some turbulence, and she thinks she's gonna die, so she just starts like word vomiting all her secrets to the guy sitting next to her, and then it turns out that he's her new boss and she is having to work for him, and I bet you can guess what happens. It is quite predictable, but it's so hilarious. I adored it. I've read a few Sophie Kinsella books now, and she's up there. She's one of my favorites, and I gave this 5 stars. Then we have The Night Swim by Megan Golden. I think I gave this 4 stars, or a 4.5. This is a thriller that has a true crime podcast within it. We are following a woman who is a podcaster. She has her own very acclaimed, popular true crime podcast, and her current series on her podcast is about a rape trial, and she travels to a different town to attend the court trial for the rape trial, and she ends up also taking on a old murder trial. She thinks she has a stalker, and yeah, that's it. That's the best way I can describe it. I've described it in such an awful way. Rachel Kroll is a household name, famous for her true crime podcast that set an innocent man free. Now she's back covering a devastating rape trial. A local Golden boy stands accused, the victim, the granddaughter of the police chief, in this close-knit town, but Rachel is distracted. Someone is leaving mysterious letters asking her to dig deep into the death of Jenny Stills. She drowned, but the letters insist it was murder. The past and present start to collide as Rachel uncovers startling connections between the two cases and a revelation that will change the course of the trial and the lives of everyone involved. It's time to find out the truth. So basically what I said, but they said it better. Okay, now we're on to one of my favourite thrillers of the entire year. Do you know what? I would say it's my favourite thriller, and this is Taylor Adams' No Exit. Can someone please tell me why my copy is like tall and skinny and like this? I don't know, that's how it was delivered to me on Amazon. I thought it was a bit bulkier, like a, you know, like a standard paperback, but it's not even, see? Okay. Anyway, this is a blood curdling, toe curling, absolute mad thriller. I have no other way to describe it. It is utter disgrace and chaos, and we are following Darby as she travels back home for Christmas break. Her mother has, I think she's been diagnosed with cancer, and on the way she kind of hits, well, there's a snowstorm and she ends up trapped at a service station. There is a few people at this service station. I think there's about 4 people. And she's outside and she sees a little hand pressing up against the window of a van. When she looks, there is a child in a cage in the back of the van, and she has to decide what to do about that, because someone in that gas station is a potential child molester or murderer. And this is set in an isolated this book is wild, and I couldn't handle it. I read it in one, like, I think about 2 hours one night, and don't read it at night. Please don't read it at night. There is such graphic scenes in this book, and it's insane. It's 5 stars though. It's one of my favourite thrillers of all time now. Moving on to a murder mystery, I have the final installment in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. You were probably very fed up of me talking about this book because I talk about it a whole fucking lot. But I need to talk about it because now I don't know what my #1 favourite book is. It may be this. I'm hearing mixed reviews about it. I'm hearing that people find it quite distasteful and not handled very well, but this is a murder mystery and it is a thriller, and I don't go to my thrillers to seek like justice and like good things. I go into thrillers for the darkness, so to me it wasn't like distasteful or disrespectful. It's exactly what I wanted. I can't say too much about this because I don't want to spoil it for anyone. This is the last book in a series, and it ties everything up in such a beautiful, grim crime scene taped bow. When I wrote my review for this, I said that this is a very gory love letter from Holly to us, and I still stand by that. This is a love letter, and if you read the book you're gonna be like, this girl's crazy, how is this a love letter? But I feel like Holly really came through and she pulled out all the stops, and she did something absolutely shocking in this that I didn't see it coming. I didn't see it coming at all. I mean, I saw some parts coming, but the absolute big twist, that is not something that I didn't see it. I'm super sad that this is over now because I just fell in love with this world and the characters. Pip and Ravi are just so cute, and the unconditional love that Ravi has for Pip really, really shows in this book, and it's beautiful. It's divine. I love it. Then we're going back to a lighter choice, and this is the Yearbook by Holly Bourne. This is Holly Bourne's newest book. I don't see her talked about enough on YouTube. I don't know, I haven't heard her talked about much on YouTube, but she is one of the UK's best contemporary authors, in my opinion. This one is... it's not my favourite out of her books, but I did give it a 5-star because it did give me a sense of nostalgia of my own school experience. I'm just going to read the back. Grace is such an amazing person. Lie. Laura steals people's boyfriends. Lie. Paige is totally unlovable. Also a lie. Paige is used to keeping quiet in the face of lies at school and at home, but she's finally had enough. When she starts to find love through the pages of a book, she finds her voice too. Now she's going to rewrite her story, and the Yearbook is the perfect place to do it. Paige Vickers most likely to bring down the mean girls. This is a book about a girl called Paige who kind of exists in the background. She literally has no friends, and she starts communicating with a guy in the year above through books because she loves books. So she ends up like finding messages from him in that book, and she writes them back, and then that's a whole separate storyline. But the gist of this book is Paige is on the newspaper committee, and the school newspaper and the yearbook committee join up. The yearbook committee is hosted by the popular girls who are very mean, and Paige has kept journals over the years where she keeps track of all the behaviour, like bullying and bad things that people have said and done throughout the time at the school, and she kind of uses the yearbook as a replacement for that. And because these popular girls want to turn it into like an all about me kind of thing, and they're exposing some lies, Paige writes the truth in the yearbook alongside like their content, and yeah, that's that. I haven't really given anything away, that's just it. Okay, and my final book, again this has such potential to being my absolute favourite, and that is The Kingdom of the Wicked by Kerri Maniscalco. I feel like I say the name Kerri Maniscalco in absolutely every single video, but she is my mum. She is my queen. I'm now her child. I choose to be her child now. The Kingdom of the Wicked is absolutely amazing. We follow these... I'm just going to read the synopsis because I can't do this book justice, and I really need to. 2 sisters, 1 murder, a quest for vengeance that will unleash hell itself. Amelia and her twin sister Victoria have been inseparable all their lives, as strict witches who exist secretly amongst humans. They know the dangers of drawing attention and work at their family-renowned Sicilian restaurant, avoiding notice and persecution. But one night, Victoria doesn't come home, and it's not long before a distraught Amelia discovers the body of her beloved twin, desecrated beyond belief. Devastated, Amelia vows to find her sister's killer and seek vengeance at any cost, even if it means calling upon a dark magic that has been long forbidden. Then Amelia meets Wrath, one of the wicked princes of hell she has been warned against since she was a child. Wrath claims to be on Amelia's side, tasked by his master with solving a series of murders on the island, of which Victoria is the latest victim. But when it comes to the wicked, nothing is as it seems. So, this book was absolutely incredible. 5 fucking stars. It was brilliant. I'm in love with it, and I just don't know how to talk about how I'm in love with it. I just am in love with it. And I'm so excited for the final book. Actually, I don't know if it's the final book, it's the sequel. This may be a trilogy. But Kingdom of the Curse comes out on the 5th of October, I think. So I will be picking that up. I just fell in love with the Prince of Hell, and I kind of want to go to hell with him. There are more books. I lied, there's more books. I just forgot to put them in front of me. This video is going to be very long. we have Legendary by Stephanie Garber. Now again, I'm talking about the trilogy when I hold this up. This is just my favourite one. I'm in love with the Caraval series, and I'm in love with Tella, and I'm in love with Legend, and Caraval is just so whimsical and magical, and I just want to be sucked in. I want to be sucked into it. In this series, we follow these two sisters who are being abused by their father, and they're very obsessed with Caraval, which is a game that takes place all about like intrigue and delusion, convince yourself. It takes place, I think, once a year. It's invite only. One year they do end up getting invited, and one of them goes missing, and the game becomes about finding the missing sister, and it's just like everything is not what it seems. Like, you know, Alex Russo and all that. Everything is not what it seems. And then the second book just obviously follows along where Caraval ended, and I'm in love with it. I'm trying to rush this because this is 40 minutes long. Then we have The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow, which I did feature in my last video. I'm so sorry for that last video. I watched it back and I thought, this is so cringy. And then I went and tagged all the people, and I was like, well, now they've probably seen the tweet and might have watched the video, so I can't take it down. But I apologise for that last video. I talked about this book on there, so I'm not gonna talk about it again. I also have a vlog where I talked about this, but it was 5 fucking stars. It's all witchy vibes, and it's about sisters. I'm gonna do it. If you like this book, you'll like this book. Next up, obviously this book is in this video. It's actually a graphic novel. Heartstopper. I have volume 4. I actually only own volume 4 in physical copy because it is my favourite, and I just kind of want to collect them slowly over time because I do read them online and they do cost a little bit of money. But this one is my absolute favourite. I gave it 5 stars. The whole series is 5 stars. It's floppy, it's beautiful, just, aren't they darling? Aren't they? Nick and his mum, how can you not love this? I don't understand people when they say they don't like Heartstopper. Why don't you like Heartstopper? Final book. Okay, I've rushed through this, but I've ended here and it's okay. We have Malice by Heather Walter. This is a Sleeping Beauty retelling where the villain and the princess fall in love, and it's an unlikely match. I love it. I love this book. I'm just going to read you the synopsis. Once upon a time, there was a wicked fairy who cursed a line of princesses to die. A curse that could only be broken by true love's kiss. Utter nonsense. Let me tell you, no one actually cares about what happens to our princess. I thought I didn't care either until I met her. Okay. Princess Aurora, the last heir to the throne, the future queen her realm needs. One who isn't bothered that I am the dark grace, abhorred and feared for the mysterious dark magic that runs in my veins. Aurora says that I should be proud of my gift, that she cares for me, even though it was a power like mine that was responsible for her curse. But with less than a year until that curse kills her, any future I might see with Aurora is swiftly disintegrating. And she can't stand to kiss yet another insipid prince. I want to help her. If my power began her curse, perhaps it's what can lift it. Perhaps together we could forge a new world. Nonsense again, because we all know how this story ends, don't we? Aurora is the beautiful princess, and I am the villain. It's just God tier. I put this up because of Amy from Books with Amy. She's one of my favourite people on this platform. I absolutely love her. And she always gives like really good recommendations. So I picked this up because of her. And it didn't disappoint. So thank you, Amy. You are... like, she's sunshine. She's sunshine. Honestly, like, if sunshine was a person, it's her. But yeah, this is a sapphic romance, and obviously I just love sapphic romances. Right, I feel like 44 minutes is long enough, don't you, Stitch? I feel like it's long enough, isn't it? Yes. He's got my dog's fur on him. Jess likes to sleep with Stitch. But yeah, me and Stitch are gonna go now. That is the end of this video. If you like this and you're not subscribed yet, subscribe. I would love to have you here, and I will see you in the next video.